In medieval England, the most dangerous place you could enter wasn't a battlefield, it was your local pub. One drink could leave you hallucinating, and one bite of bread could literally make your limbs rot and fall off. This is the reality of the 12th century alehouse. The human body requires constant fuel, and grueling farm labor burned 4,000 calories a day. Replacing those calories was a matter of life and death. Meat was a luxury for the wealthy, and vegetables disappeared during winter. Drinking water was a risk, because rivers were contaminated with waste. Survival required liquid energy from fermented grain. The diet keeping medieval society alive was dangerous, making every meal a biological gamble. People ate and drank with no concept of microbiology, only knowing sometimes bread made fingers rot and ale drove a village insane. This is the story of how ordinary food became a game of biological roulette. Grains were the center of human existence, providing 80% of a farm worker's calories and 3/4 of a soldier's energy. Wealthy nobles ate mostly grain despite having meat and imported spices. You ate it baked as bread, boiled as stew, and drank it. Ale was a nutritional pillar called liquid bread because brewing unlocked trapped calories. Brewers soaked barley until it sprouted, converting starches into fermentable sugars. Boiling this mixture created an energy-dense liquid holding over 1,000 calories per gallon. Every adult and child drank it daily. Toddlers drank small beer, made by soaking leftover grain again, providing safe hydration and calories. Most adults drank 1 gallon of ale every day, and monks and retirees negotiated for daily ale in legal contracts. A noble household could consume 80 gallons a day, creating a logistical challenge. Keeping a village hydrated required constant brewing. The liquid lifeblood of medieval England flowed from women. Brewing was domestic labor done inside the home. A woman brewed ale alongside cooking and cleaning to keep her family alive, but also brewed extra batches to sell. These brewsters, or alewives, were the financial backbone of the local economy. Brewing offered a rare path to financial independence, and unmarried women built commercial businesses by turning kitchens into breweries. When ale was ready, the alewife hung a broom or wooden shovel above her door to signal neighbors who wandered in with leather cups and paid silver coins for a drink. Ale was expensive, costing an unskilled laborer their entire daily wage of 1.50 pennies, trading a day of sweat for liquid calories. Medieval farming was a struggle against weather and pests, making grain precious and wasting it a community tragedy. If an alewife brewed a bad batch, she ruined the local economy because customers lost their money and primary nutrition. The cultural image of the alewife survives today as the Halloween witch. Alewives wore pointed hats in markets so customers could find them, stirring cauldrons of boiling grain, keeping cats to protect grain sacks from mice, and hanging brooms outside to advertise ale. The women feeding their communities eventually became symbols of dark magic. Scholars believe this was a deliberate smear campaign. As brewing became a lucrative business, men realized profits lay in mass production. They formed male brewing guilds and built commercial breweries. To dominate the market, they pushed independent women out and ruined their reputation. Councils passed strict laws banning young women from selling ale, claiming female brewers used physical charm to promote sin. The independent brewster was painted as deceitful, and her tools became the tools of witchcraft. Society stripped women of their oldest industry and demonized the creators. Step inside a female-run peasant alehouse, which was essentially a peasant's living room. You duck your head to enter through a low frame, into a cramped room with a dirt floor packed down by boots and no glass windows. The air is thick with smoke from a central cooking fire, and you smell sweat, fermenting yeast, and animal waste. This family shares their home with livestock wandering near your feet. Outside, narrow streets are open sewers where garbage and waste flow down unpaved roads. Townsfolk dug drinking wells next to toilet pits, having no concept of cross-contamination. Life expectancy was grim, with many dying before 30. Sitting on a rough bench in this smoky room, you seek basic fuel, and the drink handed to you is nothing like modern beer. Modern beer relies on the hop flower, a natural preservative giving beer a bitter flavor and sedative effect. But hops did not become popular in England until the late 15th century. So English ale was unhopped. It was a thick, cloudy, sweet liquid. Without hops, medieval ale spoiled fast, going sour and flat after 2 days, and becoming only fit for farm animals by the third. Souring ale was dumped into pig troughs. The alcohol-infused slop gave butchered pigs a richer flavor, creating the phrase, "drunk as a swine." To balance malt sweetness without hops, brewers used Gruit, a blend of wild herbs and bitter roots. Common ingredients were wild yarrow, bog myrtle, and wild rosemary. These biologically active herbs made traditional Gruit ale a narcotic and psychotropic substance. Unlike hops, Gruit herbs were stimulants, making your heart race and making you feel aggressive. Dozens of exhausted peasants crammed into a smoky room drank gallons of hallucinogenic liquid. Medieval alehouses were famous for brawls because they were powder kegs of chemical energy. Yarrow contains a chemical found in toxic wormwood. Drink enough yarrow ale and your ears ring while your vision blurs. Scandinavian warriors drank bog myrtle before combat to trigger a battle frenzy. Brewers also added black henbane, a plant poisonous to humans. Archaeologists found henbane seeds in ancient brewing sites. In small doses, henbane makes alcohol feel stronger, induces a floating sensation, and causes visual hallucinations. It was a key ingredient in flying ointments used by witches. Henbane causes dry mouth, accidentally creating a marketing trap where drinking a cup makes you thirsty. You buy another cup and get thirstier, trapped in a profitable loop. Authorities eventually banned everything except water, barley, and hops. For centuries, English peasants drank a toxic chemical cocktail. The meal served in an alehouse was as risky as the ale, eaten at a wooden table without ceramic plates. The alewife hands you a trencher, a thick slice of stale bread. Cut into a rectangle, you use this slab of old bread like a plate. The alewife brings a communal serving bowl where, eating shoulder to shoulder with strangers without utensils, you reach your hands in and drop food onto your bread. The hot food is pottage, a thick porridge made of grains, beans, and vegetables. Meat was rarely included because religious laws banned it 3 days a week, and beef was unheard of for the poor. The scariest thing about pottage was its lifespan. An iron pot hung over the fire as a perpetual stew. The alewife never scrubbed it clean. Every day she added fresh ingredients and river water. The bottom of the pot contained sludge over a week old, making it an evolving science experiment. When finished, stew juices soaked your bread plate. You could eat the soggy plate for extra calories or toss it to a beggar. Bread was sacred and shaped the English language. Lord means guardian of the loaf, and lady means kneader of dough. Bread sustained life but destroyed bodies. Raw grain was ground into flour in stone mills. During grinding, stone flakes broke off and mixed into the flour. There was no way to sift it out, so peasants chewed on tiny rocks. Over decades, this diet acted like sandpaper. Skeletons from medieval graveyards show adult teeth ground flat to the root nerves. Stone grit was an accident, but real danger came from greed. Soft white bread was a luxury for the rich, while the poor ate dark bread made from cheap rye and oats. To increase profits, bakers cheated customers by mixing cheaper materials into their dough. They added chalk powder to make bread look whiter, baked dirt from the floor into loaves, and hid chunks of iron inside dough to trick market scales. Food fraud threatened public order because if peasants starved from fake bread, they rioted. Authorities created public punishments. If a baker sold underweight or dirty bread, guards dragged them through sewage and locked them in a pillory. Heavy boards trapped their head and wrists, while guards tied the fake dough around their neck. Townspeople threw garbage at the baker's face. Bakers lived in terror of short-weight accusations, so to protect themselves, they threw in an extra loaf with every large order. If you ordered 12 loaves, the baker gave 13 to guarantee passing inspection. This created the phrase, "a baker's dozen," born from a fear of the law. Eating dirt and chalk was bad, but a greater terror hid in the farm fields. Humanity unknowingly fought a biological war against a microscopic enemy attacking the rye crop. Rye was a resilient plant growing well in cold weather, making it a survival crop. But rye is susceptible to a parasitic fungus called ergot. When a wet spring was followed by a hot summer, ergot thrived. It replaced healthy kernels with dark fungal masses. Peasants harvested the infected rye, ground it into flour, and baked it into bread for their families. What followed was a nightmare. Ergot contains toxic alkaloids and is the precursor to modern LSD. Eating infected bread caused an illness called St. Anthony's fire. The affliction hit victims in two ways. One version attacked the nervous system, causing muscle seizures. Victims thrashed on the dirt floor, experiencing visual hallucinations. Medieval writers thought these people were possessed by demons. Whole villages experienced a mass psychedelic drug trip. The second version was worse. Toxic chemicals constricted blood vessels, stopping blood flow to the hands and feet. Victims felt a burning sensation under their skin. Over weeks, fingers and toes turned black and the flesh died. Dry gangrene set in, and the blackened limbs snapped off the body. A person could lose hands, feet, or their nose. The death toll was astronomical, with a regional outbreak wiping out tens of thousands, including a Norwegian king. The terror of St. Anthony's fire led to a monastic order founded to treat victims. Monks built hundreds of hospitals across Europe. To let peasants know they had found a hospital, monks painted walls red and hung amputated limbs above doors as an advertisement of medical charity. For over 800 years, this horror haunted Europe. Millions ate bread and randomly lost limbs. They blamed witches, God, and poisoned wells. They failed to suspect the bread, and the cause remained a mystery. Nobody made the scientific connection between dark grains and the rotting disease until the late 1600s. A microscopic fungus held an entire continent hostage. Because bread acted as a biological weapon and ale as a stimulant, the government stepped in. Kings realized food safety was national security. The English crown passed the assize of bread and ale, tying the price of a drink directly to the market cost of raw grain. To enforce these rules, towns appointed local officers called ale conners. Their job was dangerous, making them frontline soldiers of early food safety. An ale conner visited every house with a brewing sign to demand a sample. He checked serving cups, smell, taste, and quality of the brew. A myth claims an ale conner poured ale onto a wooden bench and sat on it in leather pants. If his pants stuck, the brewer had added hidden sugar. This is an unproven historical fabrication. The reality was less amusing because the ale conner drank the batches himself. Tasting unregulated ale was a health hazard. Court records show inspectors became ill or died from toxic batches. Other times, alcohol destroyed their judgment. In one Scottish town, citizens complained their ale tasters were permanently drunk and could no longer do their jobs. When a cheating alewife was caught, punishments were cruel. Cash fines were ineffective for wealthy guilds who paid them and kept cheating. For poorer women, punishment was physical. A cheating brewster might be strapped to a cucking stool and paraded through town. This evolved into the ducking stool. An angry crowd wheeled the chair to a river, strapped the woman in, and plunged her underwater. Many women drowned or died of hypothermia. The line between enforcing the law and mob murder was thin. Drunkenness itself was rarely punished. Being intoxicated in public was legal until the mid-16th century. The state only cared about price and measure, not if you lost your mind on toxic henbane. Despite toxic herbs and poisoned bread, the alehouse thrived. By the 17th century, England had one alehouse for every 100 citizens. These cramped spaces evolved into a shadow society. The royal courts were slow, and the church demanded money. The local alehouse belonged to the common people. Deals made over ale were legally binding. You could buy land, arrange a marriage, or settle a blood feud sitting on a dirt floor. The church hated this practice, watching congregations abandon Sunday Mass for the local brewster's living room. Lawmakers tried banning meetings in alehouses, but it never worked. The pull of cheap calories, alcohol, and human connection was too strong to break. Living in this era was a masterclass in human endurance. You pushed your body to the breaking point and survived on a diet that would horrify a modern toxicologist. You drank rotting liquids spiced with nightshade, chewed bread filled with rocks and fungi, and shared an unventilated room with animals and strangers. The women who made your food did their best without modern science, and the men who regulated it were often drunk or dying. Every day was a biological tightrope walk. You consumed these dangerous things because the alternative was starving. The medieval alehouse was a grim, dangerous place, but it was the chaotic furnace that kept humanity moving forward. It built the foundation of commerce and community, shaped the earliest food safety laws, and proved the human body can survive almost anything. Subscribe to History Echoes Hub and comment below telling us what topic to cover next.